Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Sunday, August the 18th. It's race number 9 at Del Mar. Here's the field for the Solana Beach Stakes. These are Calbred or sired fillies and mares going a mile on the turf. It's an overflow field of 12, 11 in the body. Ultimate High is the also eligible. First, they're all going to have to beat, however, is the number 2 Stay and Scam, winner of the Franz Valentine at a mile, 2 starts back, and got a nice sprint prep last time out for Doug O'Neill.
Yeah, this is a sprinter, then turned two-turn horse. As you mentioned, tried the sprint last time out on July 27th, but a really talented filly. I've been a big fan of her. Dan, she made me some money Breeders' Cup weekend, so I've stuck on the bandwagon. Obviously, though, the value in terms of what she's offered in terms of odds has been a way less. But I think the main thing is when you look at this field top to bottom, these are fillies and mares that consistently square off against one another, and we'll see who's the best on Sunday.
There should be some speed in this race with several stretch-out sprinters entered. As we throw up our Timeform US pace projector, you'll note the red bar, which indicates an expected fast pace. The number 9 Sneaker comes into this race off a little bit of a layoff. She was the pace setter in the Franz Valentine before tiring behind Stay and Scam. You have Stay and Scam can sit off the lead, who can go to the front. Tom's Regret's interesting, breaking from the rail. I wonder how they're going to ride her. She's shown the ability to sit from off the pace, but she's stretching out and drew inside.
She's coming out of those dirt sprints, as you mentioned, and she's been pretty forward in them. The fractions have been honest. Even going to, the fair circuit races prior to that at Santa Anita and the Desert Stormer, she was very forward. The fractions were very hot, a sub 45 actually 44-1 to the half, and that 6 furlong dash. So I do feel as though her hand is a little bit forced with this inside draw.
Let's start our analysis with the 1, Tom's Regret. This is the rider's second call. If the 12 Ultimate High gets into the body of the race, Tom's Regret's going to need a new jock. Now, while she hasn't won on turf, she's run well twice on the surface. It's really all about distance, isn't it, for Tom's Regret? They've only stretched her out once in her career, and she certainly has an excuse. She faced Ceiling Crusher, who eventually went on to take the cotillion.
Yeah, a 17-length winner in the Mailloux. You're talking about that race on the 28th of May last year in 2023, but she's been very good sprinting. It seems as though surface doesn't matter to her, a very consistent type where, Connections would love to have a barn full of Tom's Regrets just because she does show up each and every time. The question, though, will be the distance. I would have liked to seen her go a little bit further than 6 furlongs in prep for this, but on the flip side, I think having some early foot in the inside draw, we can see horses stretch out and they can do very well towards the front if the fractions are soft enough.
Stay and Scam, you mentioned, is so versatile, not only from a distance standpoint. She's good sprinting, she's good at a mile, but she's not just your average Calbred. She's performed admirably against graded stakes competition in her career. Here's Stay and Scam back on May the 25th, winning the Franz Valentine, and she just has that wonderful tactical speed that allows her to sit off the leaders. She takes over at will, and she goes about her business. We'll see Moment's Pleasure run second in here, but no match for Stay and Scam. Just a rock-solid winner.
Very much so, and I think this is sort of a defining moment for her because I do think there were some concerns about her getting the mile. She had been in the money prior to this victory, and this is her only victory going, quote-unquote, long on the grass. Now, since then, she had that little bit of a freshening. She came back in late July. They tried her in a 5-ace race. I like her stretching back out. I even think looking on her prior performance, 5-ace is probably too short for her. She really liked the downhill at Santa Anita. And in terms of her trip, I think it was just to tighten her up for this event and really expect her to take a big step forward.
Abita is the number 3. She's cross-entered at Del Mar on Friday. We'll see where she goes. If she runs here, she's really hoping for a pace meltdown because she has virtually no early speed. Last time out, she settled in her usual position at the back of the pack in a first-level allowance and then passed some tired horses in the stretch. I'm not sure if she's good enough to win a race like this, especially trying to make up ground on a quality horse like the favorite.
Her figures are just a tad soft, usually the high 70s. She's thrown an 80 as we saw last time out, but look at the pace there. It wasn't nearly as hot as she needed. It was going a little bit longer, a mile and a 16th, but still not stakes competition, and she just had way too much work to do late. So I feel like her running style plays against her in this field.
About a 2-month layoff for the 4 Rose Maddox, who's a really admirable Calbred, cracking the exact in 15 of 24 lifetime starts. She's done good work sprinting, but she has proven capable at a mile in the past. Last time out, she was in a pretty salty open second level allowance race going a mile, made a mid-race move before tiring. I think she certainly fits with these horses.
I think so. And another one that's going to now go long again, but 2 mile races in a row, maybe she can take a step forward. I feel as though regardless of distance, she likes to sit just off the pace and make the late run. I felt like last time out she did, but there were just other horses that were moving better in the final stages, and that's why you saw she kind of tailed off in there. Was 4th, beaten by 3.5. If you use her here, I still think just based on her record, especially this year, you're looking at the minors with her. I still have some reservations about her getting a bigger piece.
If you're looking for a filly with upside potential, how about the 5, Moment's Pleasure? She's a lightly raced 3-year-old that just seems to be improving with each and every start, getting it done over course and distance last time out against Calbred first level competition. Now it's a pretty big step up in class, but she's moving the right way.
Yeah, and I thought the way that she won that most recent race back on the 28th of July at Del Mar was a really nice performance. She was able to sit just off the pace, get up in time, several exit that event as well. And to me, unlike some other stay and scam, maybe it's a similar trip to Moment's Pleasure. I think regardless, Moment's Pleasure is going to sit just off of it, maybe 2-3 lengths max off the pace. And you've talked about it. She's a 3-year-old filly. She is facing older in here, but she's done very little wrong to this point.
The Leonard Powell barn still celebrating Anna Sett's victory from last week in graded stakes competition. They're going to send out the 6, Court Snort. She's hit the board in her last 6 races, including this effort on July the 28th. She was beaten by Moment's Pleasure in here, but she comes with a really strong late run. I thought this was a nice performance for Court Snort, and there's a chance she's going to get a good pace to attack in this race.
And I feel like, in contrast to another closer that we talked about, Abita, she is a little bit closer, Court Snort, and is able to find that best stride late. And obviously she runs out of real estate once again, but I thought it was a good performance. They've tried different things with her prior to this. They tried her sprinting on the dirt. She was able to get a win, return to the turf. To me, she just has a better turn of foot than the other horse that we talked about.
A lot of minor awards on display for the 7 Uncontrollable, who's still eligible for a non-winners of 2 life, but perhaps switching back to the lawn is the wake-up call she needs for trainer Michael McCarthy. The last time she stepped on the turf was a downhill race back in February, and she actually picked up some pieces at a price.
She's tough for me to use in here. You said it perfectly. She's eligible for non-winners of 2. I'd like to see a little bit more on her resume to this point. Her dirt races, they seemed very adamant about her being a dirt sprinter in those last 4 races, and she's been able to close, but her last 2 to me have been disappointing. You can see after the race 2 back, they put her on the shelf. She went off as the favorite once again. So 3 consecutive races as the favorite, has failed each and every time. And sure, her turf number, the 72, is way better than those last 2, but it's still not competitive against this group.
The 8 Worthy of Magic should be a pace player in here. She was the pace setter last time out in the race we saw with Moment's Pleasure, and she hung in till late in the stretch at a pretty big price. So it appears she's in very good form right now. The problem is she's probably going to be facing even more quality speeds in this race.
Yeah, she's going to have more company on the front end if she makes the lead in here. We've talked about her speed. Go down the page, at least after the opening quarter, just about most of her races, unless she breaks poorly, she's out in front. And many times she doesn't have enough left late, whether that was Golden Gate on the synthetic, whether that was more recently in Southern California, same sort of deal. So another one that would need to take a step forward. But if you're looking at this race in terms of trying to figure out how the pace could be muddled, she certainly could play a factor in that.
Sneaker is your expected pace setter on our Timeform US pace projector, and she was up close to the pace when winning 2 1-mile races at Santa Anita during the spring. I think there are going to be some folks that say that perhaps she was exposed last time out on the Franz Valentine. I'm not willing, though, to make that case just yet because it was only her first start against stakes competition, and she is so lightly raced. With her running style, however, it could really work against her if this pace is fast.
Another 3-year-old filly in the field. You mentioned last time out, stakes for the first time, facing older for the first time as well. And all in all, she tried to stick around, and she was 5th best. Other horses were able to sit the trip, stay and scam, as we talked about several of these runners already in the field. and then they put her on the shelf. And this is an operation that does well with horses after they've given them a little bit of a freshening. I wouldn't be surprised to see her take a step forward in this spot.
Although all three of the number 10 Safa Stakes placings have come on dirt, I think she's equally capable on the turf, as evidenced by her victory 2 starts back, going a straightaway 6.5 at Santa Anita. And I like the fact that she showed some tactical speed in that race. She doesn't seem like a speed crazy type. I think stretching out to a mile is within her scope.
When you look at her 2 tries at a mile, she has been hitting the board. She's been second in those, and one of them was behind Sneaker. That race in particular, the figure would be soft, but when you look at the most recent try on the turf where she was able to get a victory, she took a nice step forward in terms of that number. She did get an 80 by her speed figure. She was able to sit just off the pace, but we'll see what she can do. This is her first time on the turf facing stakes competition.
Cornelia Fort ran well in the Franz Valentine 2 starts back, a rallying third that day behind Stay and Scam, and she might take advantage of a nice pace setup in here. She's always been an honest horse, and she actually has a few competitive buyer speed figures at a price. I could see her maybe cracking the board at the very least.
Her Franz Valentine performance was quite a good one, especially considering she was 18-1 in there. I thought she had a little bit of trouble, and she wasn't too far behind Moment's Pleasure, just a length and a quarter behind that one. They tried stretching her out a touch last time out, but I think she's been, kind of maintained and handled well these last several starts. You can see they might have had aspirations to turn her into more of a distance mare, or filly, I should say, 1.25 miles. That didn't work. 1.125 miles, and they've slowly cut her back. But the mile might be decent for her, like we saw 2 starts back. Again, another one that's pace dependent though.
If Ultimate I get into this race from the also eligible list, she'd have to break from a tough outside post position, but they saw enough to make her favorite in stakes races 2 and 3 starts back, and maybe she'll improve second off the layoff.
That would be the big thing. You go to that race 2 back, we're talking about October of 2023. That's a long time ago, but she's had some really nice performances going a mile and even shorter distances. So a consistent mare. Obviously, she's a 7-year-old and she's been lightly campaigned, just 19 starts under her belt, but we would need to see more than we saw in that lone start this year.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Sunday race of the day, the Solana Beach. Stay and Scam is the horse to beat. She's just so versatile from a distance standpoint, and she should be right in the thick of things when they turn for home.
Absolutely. I like that they used the Daisy Cutter last time out as a prep for this. They gave her some time off. She had a pretty tough campaign when you look at the beginning of her career till then. No breaks, and that's the first break that you see. So I do think going from 5/8 to a mile, she's now proven at the mile distance, and I'm hoping for a similar trip that we saw from her in the Franz Valentine, where she was able to get comfortable just kind of with a target in front of her.
Curious to see what we get from Tom's Regret stretching out in distance. I'd like to see them break with her, let the speeds go, tuck into the pocket, and hope for the best. Maybe the 5 Moments Pleasures coming into her own at the right time. I'm curious to see what sort of price she goes off at. Maybe I'll play her as well. 2651 for Ashley, 1295 for me. It's the Solana Beach at beautiful Del Mar on Sunday. Good luck.